Good evening and Jai Hind everyone. There are performers and then there are artists whose very presence turns the stage into poetry. Today we are honored to welcome one such luminary, Srimati Ragini Chandershekar, among the finest Bharatanatyam dancers of her generation. Trained under her mother, the late Guru Jamuna Krishnan, Ragini ma'am has carried forward the tradition with her own unique sensibility. With over 35 years of performances across India and abroad, her art reflects depth, grace, and an infectious joy that captivates audiences. Recipient of the Ustad Bismillah Khan Puraskar and many other accolades, she also nurtures future artists as president of Kalangan. A TEDx speaker and academic with dual master's degree, she continues to inspire both on and beyond the stage. Let us step into her world of rhythm, devotion, and timeless artistry. With your permission, may we begin with the interview, ma'am?
Sure. Namaste.
My first question to you is, how did your journey in Bharatanatyam begin, and what was that first moment which made you feel it was not just dance, but your lifelong sadhana?
So I was very, very fortunate to have been born in a family where my mother was a dancer. So when you're born in that environment, you almost start dancing even before you walk. And I think the dance began in the womb itself. It was never really a conscious decision to dance, because when your mother is an artist and when the atmosphere in the house is all the time surrounded and enveloped with music and dance, it's reverberating with music and dance, it's very natural for the child to take to dance. And the beauty, the rigor, the sadhana, I think all this was unknown to me when I was a child. It was just the joy of dancing. And very early, I was my formal training in dance began under my mother. I think I must have been 4 at that time, very, very young, maybe 3.5, 4. And I remember when I was about 6, I was also put under the tutelage of her guru, Sri K.J. Govindarajan. So the formal path of training started very, very early. And it was never really a decision to become a dancer at that time. Dance was just an intrinsic part of my life. And just as the way I went to school or studied or went to play or even for that matter brushed my teeth, I was dancing. So dance was never an either-or option in our home. It was a must-do. It was part of your daily timetable, your daily activity schedule. I would also attribute this to the fact that there were very few distractions when we were young. In the early 80s, the distractions were few and far between. No social media, one channel of television which would only sometimes play a Hindi movie on Saturday or Sunday in the evening. So I think the distractions and a television setup where, post 10 o'clock at night, things would stop coming on air. The distractions were very limited, and probably that gave us the kind of attention, time, sadhana, and dedication that we could give to whatever we wanted to do seriously. The real moment, I think, when I decided that I don't want dance to just be like a hobby, but it's got to be something more serious than that, was I think when I completed class 12th, and then the next big question was, what do I do in college? And I'd always wanted to become a doctor, a surgeon in particular. And when I was discussing this with my family, I remember my mother telling me that if you go into study medicine, if you want to become a surgeon, then you will just have to bid goodbye to dance. You can't be doing dance and medicine together. And that set me thinking. I think probably it was her push that enabled me to choose literature as an option for my graduation and then for my post-graduation studies. I think which really enhanced probably at that time, at that age at which I was, 18, 19, it really widened my understanding of poetry, my understanding of texts, my understanding of how poetry functions. One is, of course, at the textual level, and the other is at a more interpretative, deeper level, all of which were great influences in my journey of dance. And that age of, I think, 18 to 30, those 13 odd years, was, I think, also where my learning curve was at its peak. I was learning from different masters. There was so much of input going into my dance. My guru, Shri K.N. Dakshinamurthy, I started learning from him, from Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan, Usha Srinivasan ji, Shri Karekudi Shivakumar. I probably think at that phase in your life when you're an adult and, when you're no longer doing dance just as a kind of a hobby, but you're definitely more serious, these inputs, they start adding a very different dimension, a very different meaning to your dance aesthetics. And I think that was when I really realized that this is not for, time pass or not just a hobby, but this is something that I would want to do lifelong. And I would want to do it seriously, professionally. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really very informative. Bharatanatyam is a union of Nritya and Natya. In your own journey, which of these aspects shaped you most deeply?
Well, I always think, as you rightly said, Bharatanatyam is an amalgamation of these three beautiful pillars: the technique, the mime, and the movement. I personally do not think that you can really separate one from the other, because all of them put together is what gives Bharatanatyam its unique, unusual character. But I think at different stages of a dancer or a performer's life, we gravitate, or rather we have our preference towards one particular aspect. In our younger days of our career, when we are very young, I think it's probably Nritta, which is not just easier to do, but we also think and we want to use our body to its maximum by doing the technique. And as we move towards the later years, the experiences of life and what we experience as human beings, not as dancers, but as human beings, they greatly influence and shape our understanding of emotions. So I think that during that phase, abhinaya, or the art of storytelling, the art of experiencing the expression. You have to experience the expression. If I was to talk about Vatsalya or the mother, the love that the mother has for the child, it took on a very different meaning when I had children of my own. So those life experiences shape your own understanding of emotion. And at that point of time, abhinaya, or the element of, natya, just takes on a whole different meaning and has a whole different connotation to you. And there's this shift between the technique. Sometimes we are veering more towards the technique, sometimes it's more towards the abhinaya. I think this switch is a constant process. On the days when we are really feeling physically at our best, it's a joy to do nritta. And at times, when the weather is hot and physically you're not feeling as energetic, I think I recourse more towards abhinaya during those days. And abhinaya, when done and practiced and learned and revisited, as you move ahead in life with not just years, biological years, but also with years of experience, it starts taking on a more mature, more mellowed, more holistic approach. It's not just using your hands and feet and face, but you start putting up more of your soul into that. So I think that is shaped as you progress in life.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful answer. The Guru Shishya Parampara is central to our tradition. Could you share a moment with your Guru that left a lifelong impression on your dance?
Oh, there have been so many. I've been so fortunate to have been trained with some of the greatest masters of the dance style, each of whom have left their very unique imprint and an indelible impression on my artistic journey. Whatever I am today, I always say that it's only because of the bhiksha given by the gurus that 1/10 of that probably has come to me, and I'm trying my best to keep it up. But I think each of my great masters lent a very unique touch to my dance, to my understanding of dance, to my learning of this beautiful artistic tradition. And the Guru Shishya Parampara, as you rightly said, which is so central to the learning of our classical arts, is where our classes were never done in groups. It was one-to-one with the Guru. And the Guru really knew you like your own parent. You grew up in front of them, you shared your joys, you shared sorrows, you shared your birthdays, you shared your happy moments with them. So they were like an elderly family member, not just as someone to whom or who would come home, say, thrice a week for a 2-hour class. With my mother, I always felt that till the very end, she was more of a guru and less of a mother when the class would happen. So that discipline, that sense of reaching out or striving for perfection, striving for excellence was something that I really, really learned from her. And that was what I think she gave so selflessly. And that was a very important pointer, not just in my artistic journey, but also in my personal journey. Guru Govindarajan sir was a great vocalist. He used to sing beautifully. So the element of merging music with dance and how beautifully music complements dance, and where the dance is incomplete without beautiful music, was something that I learned and I imbibed from him. He was a very, very easygoing, very beautiful soul who I think all students who learned from him used to just enjoy the fact that Guruji was so light-hearted about everything. And when your guru was light, the students automatically learned a lot more. And then the shift happened when I was learning with Guru K.N. Dakshinamurti ji, who sort of did a 360-degree turn to my dance, brought in so much of perfection, so much of rigor. And he was a taskmaster, very, very different from my earlier guru. And Dakshinamurti sir was the kind who, in our one-to-one sessions, if you would make a mistake towards the end of the sequence, he would start from the beginning. So I would be like, I was young, I was 18, and not much of patience at that time. So I would say, what is this, Guruji? I mean, why are we starting from the beginning? And he would say, no, you made a mistake at the end. You have to start from the beginning so that you don't make a mistake at the end next time. So that element of really giving detail and attention to every small movement. How do you move the eyes? How does the hand move? This was something that Guruji taught me, and he was a master at that. In addition to the dance being also very lyrical, very beautiful. So their school of dance itself was very well known for combining the energy, which is central to Bharatanatyam, along with the grace, the beauty, the light-footedness. All this came together in their style. And then, of course, my Abhinaya guru, along with my mother, was the great Kalanidhi Narayanan, who was also my mother's guru. So in many sense, she was like a grandmother to me. And learning from her was a very, very rich experience for my young mind. Unfortunately, we lost her a couple of years back. But her mind was so aware and so astutely aware to detail. So the detailing of characters, which is central to Abhinaya in Bharatanatyam, was something that, we just would watch her in awe when she would dance. And she always would say, it doesn't matter how old you are, but when you're playing a character on stage, you have to become that character. So Mami would be, at that time, she was in her 70s when she was teaching me. And she would be sitting in the class, wearing a very simple sari, no makeup, just a small black bindi, wrinkled face. And when she would do the portrayal of, say, a young heroine in love, you would actually feel as if, she had got transformed into an 18-year-old. So that was the magic of dance. And that was something that I learned from her. She would always say, it doesn't matter. You can be 40 years old, but when you're showing little Krishna, you must become 5 years old. You must become like a 6-year-old child. And my other guru, Sri Shivakumar, contributed greatly to my understanding of rhythm. How do we use rhythm in dance? How do we use the rhythmic patterns and choreograph your dance movements to highlight or embellish those rhythmic phrases? He was a master at rhythm, and I had the great fortune of learning how to translate rhythm into movement under him. So I think each one of the gurus contributed a very, very special something to my dance, because of whom I am what I am today, and to whom I feel deeply, deeply, deeply grateful and indebted.
Ma'am, that was such a beautiful answer. Spick McKay brings young students closer to our classical arts. How has your association with Spick McKay allowed you to share Bharatanatyam with new generations?
I've been associated with Spick McKay now for almost about 15 years. And we've danced at big schools, big colleges, small schools, small setups, sometimes even in villages where, they don't even have a proper floor. We've danced just on mud floors. But I think the magic of the Spick McKay movement lies in the passion of its founder. So Kiranji, his passion, his enthusiasm is infectious, and this determined zeal that he has behind the motto of Spick McKay, which is to take art to the youth of today, the citizens of tomorrow, and educate them, not just with the intention of making everyone sitting in the audience become an artist, but in order to sensitize every viewer towards the rich cultural heritage of India, is absolutely amazing. So over the last 15 years, through the length and breadth of the country that we have performed and danced, I think the love, the affection, many a times the simplicity, the innocence of young minds, some of whom are really, really eager to know about their culture and their heritage, has been very heartwarming. So, and for me, every time I do a Spick McKay circuit with 8-10 performances, each of those performances in the city is a new experience, because you're interacting with new minds, with fresh faces, some of whom know the dance, some of whom have absolutely no idea. Many a times, they're watching a Bharatanatyam performance for the first time. So how do we structure our performance in order for them to understand? I think these have been great learnings along the way, because these are not like typical performances that we would do in auditoriums. They are more interactive. They're made, or rather I tailor them in such a way to make the art reach a young mind. So I think organizations like Spick McKay are absolutely doing a phenomenal, incredible job in making our culture reach out to the youth. That's a huge task indeed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The stage in Bharatanatyam is said to be like a mandir,
Yes.
with the dancer as the devotee. How do you prepare yourself spiritually before a performance?
This is a deep question. I've always felt that when I practice, the stage comes later, as in a performance comes later. But first, let's talk about the sadhana, or the element of the practice. When I practice, I experience, or rather I feel a very deep connect with the divine. And as a result of which, when I am dancing, when I am expressing the lyrics of the song, it's meditation for me. So I never really need to spend separate hours in my puja room or indulge in a very separate mode of ritual worship, because for me dance is sadhana, dance is worship. And when I'm doing a piece where I am, as you said, the devotee and the stage is set, it's like the holy place, the mandir, the communion between me and a divine force is something that I feel deeply. And for me to feel that, I feel incredibly blessed. I think this must be the blessings of my gurus endowing me with this feeling. And I also feel that as I move ahead doing compositions, I experience a very deep connect with the theme. So if I was doing a piece on, say, if it's a love poem, then I would want to experience that feeling of Shringara myself, deep within, in order for me to express it to my audience. I never like it when the external expression is a very mundane, on the stage performance kind of feeling. It's got to be something which comes from inside. It's got to be something that is deeply felt. And I feel that if I don't feel it as a performer, it's difficult for my audience to experience that. So how do I prepare myself spiritually? Before a performance, I just like to disconnect. 45 minutes to 1 hour prior to the performance, even when I'm experiencing those slight butterflies before a big show, I just like taking a couple of deep breaths, just chanting, and just getting into the mood of the performance. How do you prepare yourself? And you just sort of, it's like a kind of an implosion. All your energies need to explode inside, which is like an implosion. You want the energy to explode outside only when you're on stage. But the backstage moments are all about introspection, about thinking deeper, and about feeling those energies inside. You want to hold it all inside you before it finally sort of comes out on stage. So that is it's a very individual experience. I think every dancer reacts to this differently. And for me, I always like thinking of dance as my own individual sadhana. So for me, it's my meditation.
Thank you, ma'am. That was very insightful. Ma'am, I am myself a second-year Bharatanatyam student learning through Prayag Sangeet Samiti. I wanted to ask, what one updesh would you give to students like us so that we remain rooted in tradition while carrying forward the spirit of Spik Mackay?
I think it's very important as young, I won't just say dancers or learners, but even as young minds, for you to be very aware of the rich cultural tapestry, heritage of our country. That is something that's the first. So whether you become a dancer, whether you clear exams, whether you're getting up on stage, getting to know your dharohar, getting to know your virasat is very, very crucial. And of course, for that, you're very lucky because in schools and colleges like yours, you are moving along with the Spik Mackay movement, which brings artists to your doorstep, literally. And now I also feel that if you're really interested, the whole world has now come into the palm of your hand with your mobiles. And beautiful performances, interactions, glimpses of great artists are all available on YouTube, on Instagram, on the social media. So artists who really, dancers, practitioners, students who want to engage with this at a deeper level, well, the sky is the limit now. So being associated with organizations like Spik Mackay itself is a great way to sort of meander, find your roots, and then once you find your roots, you can fly with your wings. I always think it's very important to know your roots before you actually fly.
Ma'am, that was so inspirational. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Srimati Ragini Chandershekar for sharing with us not just her art, but her wisdom and spirit. May her journey in rhythm, devotion, and timeless artistry continue to inspire generations to come. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.